Hello and welcome to this next Flip Preaching video. My name's Andy and we're going to look at the Gospel passage for the week to come so we can get our head around it. And it's a wonderful passage, really amazing bit of the Gospel. But we need to peel back some of the layers to really make sense of it. So it's Mark 4:35 to 41, and it's the story of Jesus calming the storm, or one of the stories of Jesus calming the storm, because there's another one a couple of chapters later. So it's a short little passage, packed full of meanings, which we need to understand a little bit of the thinking of the time to make sense of it. So the story basically goes, they decide to cross over the Sea of Galilee to the other side. The other side was a place where it was a frightening place. It was the non-Jewish area. It was the enemy territory. So they're going into enemy territory, and as they go across, a storm hits the boat. It says there was a huge storm, a great windstorm, and the boat was at danger of sinking. But Jesus, somewhat bizarrely, was asleep through the whole thing, asleep on a cushion on the boat. The disciples wake him up saying, aren't you worried? Then Jesus tells the sea to be quiet, as if it's a wild animal, as if it's a demon, using the same language that he commands demons to be quiet, to be still. He says the same thing to the sea, and it does become calm. The disciples are then filled with awe. Now, some of the Old Testament background to this. Psalm 44. The psalmist asks God to wake up to save them from the trouble that they're facing. Again, this idea of God being asleep while we're suffering is here in this Old Testament psalm. Rouse yourself. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Is God asleep? Is God sleeping through the troubles that face us individually and as a world? Similarly, in Isaiah 51, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in days of old. Again, asking God to wake up and to sort out the problems that are facing us. It's as if God is asleep at the wheel, as God is asleep while things are going on. God doesn't seem to be acting. I wonder if that's how you feel at the moment. But then it goes on to remind, this Isaiah passage goes on to remind the reader of what God has done in the past. Was it not you who cut Rahab in pieces, who pierced the dragon? Now, Rahab is an ancient Jewish name for almost like the devil. It's like a sea monster that represents evil and chaos and destruction in the world, and is the reminder that God is battling with Rahab beneath the surface. The people at the time thought that the sea was the place of evil. The sea represented chaos and destruction, and everything that was wrong in the world was represented by the sea. So when the sea is rising up, threatening this boat, and Jesus tells it to be quiet, this is a skirmish in the eternal battle between good and evil, which is right at the heart of Mark's Gospel. Then Psalm 107 gives a lot of this help. Psalm 107 verses 23 to 29 seemed to be the bit which Mark was building his story around. It says, some went down to the sea in ships. That's probably where Mark gets the idea that there were other ships there. He doesn't explain what the significance of that is, but perhaps it's to make us think of Psalm 107. And it says that when the storm rose, the people's courage melted away in their calamity. They cried to the Lord in their trouble. There's a sense that we get frightened when the storm threatens to overwhelm us, and we call out to God. But he will make the storm quiet. He will calm the storm, defeat Rahab, defeat this sea monster, defeat everything that's wrong in the world. The thing is, this Mark story, Mark 4, Jesus tells the sea to be quiet, and it was quiet. But then a couple of chapters later on, the same thing happens. This wasn't a decisive, final victory of God over the forces of evil. That would come later. But this is an interim calming of the storm, calming of the forces of evil in the world that threaten us. So anyway, lots of things in this to think about. So some questions. What storms are you facing at the moment? I think it's fairly common. I think it's a safe assumption to say that we're all hit by storms most of the time. Some long, gradual ones, some very acute ones. But what storms are you facing at the moment? Does it seem like God is asleep? And how should we act when we're frightened? Do we call out to God? Do we panic? Do we lose our cool? Or do we need to develop a deeper sense of trust? And finally, how is this good news today? Remember, good news, the word gospel means victory, over the enemy. So this is a mini gospel. This is a mini good news. The calming of the sea is a reminder that God has small victories, and there's the ultimate victory. Okay, I hope that gives you some things to think about. I'd love to hear what you think. See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.